Welcome to the Zombie Nation, where the dead walk and the living run. The city of Halvorn had always been a tense borderland, the fragile bridge between the human territories and the sprawling lands ruled by the undead. For years, an uneasy truce had kept the peace, enforced by mutual need. Humans needed the rare underground waters that flowed through the Zombian plains, and the zombies, though feared, relied on the advanced human filtration systems to make the water safe for their kind. That water plant, built exactly on the border, was a lifeline for both sides. On a cold, ash-gray morning, King Morvak Dreadbane stood at the balcony of his obsidian palace, his glowing amber eyes fixed on the horizon. He had ruled the undead for over 2 centuries, a figure of iron will and calculated mercy. The treaty with the humans had been his doing, his gamble for lasting stability. But over the last few weeks, whispers had reached his ears. Whispers that the water flowing into the Zombian capital tasted wrong. On the human side, General Aric Stone inspected his troops at Fort Eastwall. Aric was a war hero, tall, broad-shouldered, and carved from years of battles. The truce with the zombies was something he supported reluctantly, knowing full well the tensions that simmered beneath it. Yet, he also knew that breaking it would lead to bloodshed neither side could afford. 3 days later, disaster struck. Across the zombie lands, dozens fell ill, pain racking their rotting bodies, their strength fading. Even the strongest warriors struggled to stand. Panic rippled through the undead ranks, and the suspicion that had been quietly brewing exploded into full outrage. Morvak summoned his council immediately. At the long obsidian table, Graphic Iron Claw, commander of the Zombian Guard, slammed his clawed hand down. "My king, this is no coincidence. This is sabotage. The humans have poisoned our lifeblood." Zorath Malvine, the pale-skinned diplomat with silver-threaded robes, raised a hand for caution. "We must investigate before we accuse. The treaty demands proof." Morvak's eyes narrowed. "Then we will have proof. Send our envoys to the water plant. I will speak to the humans myself." The meeting at the border plant was tense. On the human side, Dr. Helena Cross, lead scientist for the filtration systems, met the undead delegation. Her sharp blue eyes scanned their faces as she denied the accusation. "The systems have not been tampered with. Every reading has been normal." Graphic growled. "Then explain why our warriors cough black bile and collapse by the dozen." Helena's voice hardened. "If your people are sick, the cause is not here. I suggest you look within your own lands before pointing fingers." Morvak stepped forward, his towering frame casting a long shadow. "Do you take me for a fool, human? This plant is our only shared source. If my people suffer, the cause flows from here." Aric Stone arrived mid-meeting, his presence cutting through the tension like a drawn blade. "King Morvak," he greeted, voice steady, "we have no reason to break the treaty. But if you threaten my people, I will not hesitate to defend them." For hours they argued, data against accusations, science against suspicion. Helena presented reports showing water quality unchanged. Zorath suggested joint testing teams. But Graphic's fury burned hotter with every word, and the zombies' patience thinned. Finally, Morvak spoke, his voice deep enough to rattle the glass. "Enough. I will return to my capital. But hear me, Aric Stone. If I find proof that your kind did this, I will come for you with the full might of my armies." Back in the Zombian capital, Morvak ordered a sweeping investigation. Over the next week, samples were taken, studied, and compared. The results were grim. Traces of a rare industrial toxin, one manufactured only in human lands, were found in the water reserves. Whether planted by a rogue agent or sanctioned by the human government, it did not matter to the undead king. In his eyes, the humans had broken their word. Morvak gathered his commanders in the war hall. "They have poisoned our lifeblood," he declared. "They have broken the bond sworn in blood. The treaty is dead." News traveled quickly. Across the human settlements, bells tolled in warning. Soldiers were mobilized, fortifications reinforced. General Aric Stone met with Helena Cross in a dimly lit war room. "I swear to you," Helena said, voice raw, This wasn't authorized. Someone wants this war. Maybe, Aric replied grimly. But Morvak won't listen now. He believes the evidence, and that's all that matters. The first skirmishes began 2 days later along the eastern ridge. Zombie warriors, led by Graphic, clashed with human patrols in brutal, close-quarters combat. Ethan Ward, a young human soldier fresh from training, found himself face-to-face with Crag Bloodfang, a towering undead berserker. Their blades met in sparks, the clash echoing across the battlefield. For 15 days, the war raged without pause. Entire forests burned, rivers ran black with ash, and both sides suffered heavy losses. Yet neither could break the other's will. In the final days, as winter's frost began to bite the wounded land, both leaders realized the fight could not continue without destroying everything they fought to protect. And so, under a sky torn by smoke and snow, King Morvak Dreadbane and General Aric Stone met once more at the border. Their faces were haggard, their armies broken. Morvak spoke first. "This war will end, but on my terms. For the next 10 years, the plains and all water sources within them will be under Zombian control. We will guard them, and you will supply them at your own cost. Break this, and I will burn your cities to the ground." Aric's jaw tightened, but he nodded. "For the sake of the living, both living and undead, we accept." The treaty was signed with trembling hands, and the armies withdrew. The land was silent again, but the silence was not peace. Both sides knew the wound would fester for years to come. Far from the negotiating table, in the ruins of a burnt-out village, Ethan Ward and Crag Bloodfang stood apart from the others, each nursing wounds. For a brief moment, they exchanged a nod, warriors' respect forged in blood. It was a small thing, perhaps, but in that fragile gesture lay the faintest hope that, someday, this cycle might break. The night was restless in Los Angeles. Smoke curled above the ruined skyline, glowing faintly under the light of distant fires. The air smelled of burnt gasoline and rotting flesh. Captain Ethan Brooks stood on the rooftop of an abandoned diner, the city stretching out before him like a battlefield that had already lost. Below, the survivor group huddled around a dim lantern. Sarah Miller, strong and resourceful but carrying a grief she never spoke about. Jake Carter, an ex-firefighter whose humor masked the nightmares. Liam Hayes, quiet and dependable, now weakened by an infected wound. And Dr. Emily Parker, once a top trauma surgeon, now their medic and moral compass. They had escaped the hospital earlier only by sheer luck, clutching the penicillin like it was gold, but their relief had lasted less than an hour. The mutated zombies they encountered weren't isolated cases. Ethan could see them from the rooftop, small packs moving faster than the usual undead, climbing over wreckage, and even communicating in guttural growls. "We can't stay here," Ethan muttered as he slid down the fire escape. Back at ground level, Sarah looked up at him. "Where now?" "The safe zone's gone. The hospital's crawling. We're out of options." Ethan replied, "Not quite. There's a military research base, Raven Rock, about 20 miles north. Before the outbreak, it was working on experimental antivirals. If anything can help Liam and stop these mutations, it's there." Jake raised an eyebrow. "And what's the catch?" Ethan's gaze shifted toward the glowing skyline. "It's in the quarantine red zone, the heart of the infection." Sarah didn't hesitate. "Then we go. We don't have a choice." They moved through the streets in silence, sticking to shadows. Every corner felt like a trap. Storefronts were shattered. Mannequins lay in the street like discarded corpses. Somewhere in the distance, a church bell tolled, a sound with no living person to ring it. As they crossed a freeway overpass, a low rumble shook the pavement. From beneath, a swarm of the fast mutants poured out, scrambling up the embankment. "Go! Move!" Ethan shouted. Gunfire erupted. Sarah's pistol barked sharp cracks, Jake's shotgun thundered, and Ethan's M4 rattled bursts. Liam, pale and sweating, tried to swing his bat but stumbled. 2 mutants lunged at him. Dr. Parker slammed one with her medical bag, buying Ethan just enough time to put them both down. They ran until their lungs burned, ducking into a deserted subway station. The air underground was thick with mildew. but for now it was quiet. Jake checked his ammo. 2 shells left. You? Ethan shook his head. 5 rounds. We'll have to make them count. Sarah studied Liam. His wound was worse. The infection was spreading up his side, dark veins spiderwebbing under the skin. We have to get him there fast, she said. They followed the subway tunnels north, avoiding the streets above. Once, they passed a collapsed train car, its windows smeared with bloody handprints. In the silence, Ethan thought he heard faint whispers, but when he turned, there was nothing. Hours later, they surfaced near the outskirts of the red zone. Raven Rock's outer walls were visible in the distance. High fences topped with barbed wire, floodlights still glowing faintly despite the chaos. Between them and the base lay an open field scattered with burnt-out vehicles. It's too exposed, Jake said. Ethan scanned the area through his scope. Shapes were moving, dozens of them, some slow, some unnervingly fast. We go at first light, Ethan decided. They'll be less active. They took shelter in a wrecked bus for the night. Rain pattered against the metal roof. Sarah sat beside Liam, wiping his forehead with a damp cloth. In the quiet, she told him about her younger brother, lost in the first week of the outbreak. Liam smiled faintly. We'll make it. Just make sure you finish this, even if I can't. Dawn came gray and cold. They moved quickly, weaving between the husks of cars, keeping low. The mutants reacted late, but when they did, it was chaos. Dozens broke into a run, their guttural roars rising into the morning air. Go! Go! Ethan yelled. Bullets flew, bodies dropped, but for every one that fell, 2 more seemed to take its place. Sarah reached the fence first, climbing fast. Jake boosted Dr. Parker over before hauling Liam up. Ethan was last, firing until his rifle clicked empty, then leaping down inside the perimeter. Inside Raven Rock, the silence was almost worse than the chase. Papers littered the halls, computer monitors flickered with static, and the smell of antiseptic clung to the air. In the lab wing, Dr. Parker found a sealed cold storage unit. Inside were rows of vials marked Prototype VX11. She scanned the labels. It's an antiviral. Might stop the mutation. Might even work on the infection itself. Liam was fading fast. Without hesitation, she prepared an injection and pushed it into his arm. Minutes crawled by. His breathing steadied, color returning to his face. Sarah's relief was cut short by the sound of pounding on the outer doors. The Horde had found them. We need to activate the perimeter defenses, Ethan said, moving toward the control room. Jake followed, covering him. They powered up the base's automated turrets just as the first wave broke through the gates. Gunfire roared, shredding the front ranks, but more kept coming. In the chaos, Sarah realized something. These mutants weren't acting randomly. They were being driven, directed. From the tree line beyond the fence, a massive figure emerged, a mutated zombie nearly twice the size of the others, its skin armored in jagged bone. It roared, and the others surged forward in unison. That's their alpha, Ethan said grimly. We take it down, maybe the rest scatter. Jake loaded his last shell. Guess we're doing this the hard way. The fight was brutal. The alpha smashed through barricades, shrugging off gunfire. Ethan distracted it while Sarah climbed onto a wrecked vehicle, aiming for its head. Jake fired, hitting it square in the knee, sending it staggering. Ethan seized the moment, driving a steel rod through its skull. The creature collapsed, and as it did, the Horde faltered, breaking into disorganized retreat. Hours later, the sun was high. Liam was awake, weak but smiling. Guess I owe you my life, he said. Sarah laughed softly. We all owe each other. Dr. Parker stored the remaining vials carefully. If we can get this formula to other survivors, maybe we can turn this around. Ethan looked out over the smoking battlefield. The city was still dangerous, still broken, but for the first time since the outbreak, hope didn't feel like a lie. Then we move, he said. There's a world out there worth saving, and we're not done yet. And so they left Raven Rock, stepping back into the ruins of the world, carrying with them the one thing the dead could never take away: hope. If you enjoyed this zombie story, make sure to like, subscribe, and share Zombie Nation. And if a story won your heart, or maybe a little of your blood-smirking face, don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments. Thank you.